All right, guys. So today we're going to start right away. Um, Today's lesson is going to be on airspace. And so basically, when you get your private pilot license, this is information that all has to be kind of in your head and memorized up to a certain point. Because, when you look outside your window, there's no like roads or highways or whatever in the air, but there's rules that you have to follow when you're flying. Especially there's visual flight rules, right? VFR flight rules. So I was like thinking about the best way to teach this, and I feel like the best way to teach this lesson, it's a little complicated, but I felt like the best way to teach this lesson is by playing a video and pausing it at the same time and kind of explaining it as we go. So it's my first time doing this, but let's see how it works out. All right. So um, here's, you guys see this right here? Oh, here you go. You got,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So you probably see my face a little bit, and you see this this big airspace video, right? So it's from Embry Riddle. I feel like they did a great job on this. So I'll play it and pause it and talk about it as we go. Okay.
On any given day, more than 87,000 flights are in the skies in the United States. To handle all of this traffic, the FAA has developed what is called the National Airspace System. The atmosphere is divided up into unique sectors, with each sector's properties based upon that area's level of traffic and any particular needs of that area. The National Airspace System divides up the classifications of airspace based on the level of air traffic, the nature of the operations conducted, the level of safety required, and national and public interest. Busy airports, like Chicago's O'Hare, will be classified differently from a single runway airport in the middle of nowhere. Areas like the Kennedy Space Center and Washington, D.C. have unique rules which restrict or prohibit aircraft from flying in that area due to safety and/or security reasons. There are two categories of airspace or airspace areas: regulatory and non-regulatory. Regulatory airspace has a set of specific regulations that govern that area, whereas non-regulatory airspace is just used to advise or warn pilots of the operations that are conducted within the airspace. Regulatory airspace consists of classes A, B, C, D, E, and G, restricted areas, and prohibited areas. Non-regulatory airspace consists of military operation areas, or MOAs, warning areas, alert areas, and controlled firing areas. Within these two categories, there are four types: controlled, uncontrolled, special use, and other airspace. Each unique sector of airspace is defined by its lateral and vertical boundaries. The lateral boundaries can be thought of as the airspace's footprint along the ground. It can range from as simple as a circle surrounding an airport to a complicated, multi-sided polygon. The vertical boundaries describe the upper and lower altitude limits. These altitudes are labeled in one of three ways: AGL, or above ground level, which describes the altitude in terms of height above the ground; MSL, or mean sea level, which describes the altitude in terms of height above the average sea level. And this is the altitude that is read off an aircraft's altimeter. Finally, flight levels, which also describe the altitude in terms of height above the average sea level, but is also based upon using a standard pressure of 29.92 inches of mercury. Flight levels are typically used to measure an aircraft's altitude when at 18,000 feet MSL and above. This would then be labeled as flight level 180. To figure out which classification of airspace you are navigating through, there are various aeronautical maps, called charts, which can be used. The most prominent chart beginning pilots will use is the sectional chart. Sectional charts provide detailed information to aviators, such as terrain elevation, ground features, airports, and other information, including airspace classes, navigation aids, radio frequencies, and navigation routes. One other factor to remember when dealing with airspace is the difference between IFR and VFR flight plans. IFR stands for Instrument Flight Rules, meaning that the flight occurs using the aircraft instruments as the primary reference. instead of VFR, or visual flight rules, where the pilot uses outside references like the horizon and landmarks on the ground to navigate. Each of the different types of airspace has specific requirements that must be met in order to operate in it. These include, but are not limited to, pilot qualification requirements, aircraft equipment requirements, cloud clearance and visibility requirements, speed requirements, etc. An easy way to remember Class A or Alpha airspace is that it is above the airspace that small aircraft operate in. Most of the traffic operating in Class A airspace will be commercial airlines or corporate and military jets. Class A airspace is located from 18,000 feet MSL up to and including flight level 600 and covers both the 48 contiguous states and Alaska and extends offshore 12 nautical miles. Aircraft that operate in Class A airspace must be on an instrument flight plan, be in an instrument-rated airplane, and be flown by a pilot with an instrument rating. While operating in Class A airspace, two-way radio communication with ATC must be maintained. The aircraft must possess at least a Mode C transponder, and if operating above 24,000 feet MSL, must also possess some form of distance measuring equipment like GPS. A transponder is a piece of equipment that helps relay the location and speed of an aircraft to an ATC radar station. Transponders equipped with Mode C also relay the aircraft's altitude to ATC. Because all operations are conducted in accordance with instrument flight rules, there are no specific weather requirements. There is no speed limit other than to remain slower than the speed of sound. Finally, when operating in Class A or any time above 18,000 feet MSL, make sure to reset the altimeter setting to 2 Class B or Bravo airspace surrounds the...
All right, guys. That was all about Class A airspace, right? So Class A airspace, once again, happens from flight level 180 to 60,000 feet. And typically, I mean, in Class A airspace, you can't do VFR flying. It has to be on an instrument flight plan. And what that means is you're in Class A airspace, you're always going to be getting vectors or in a Victor airway, in an airway in that airspace. So once again, above flight level 180, that means that you have your barometric pressure set to 2992. Everybody's using the same barometric pressure, and that's where you're flying. And usually what they do because you're in instrument flight rules, what they do in Class A airspace is that they give you separation from other aircrafts going the opposite direction. They give you about 2,000 feet of at least vertical separation. So anybody who's traveling in Class A airspace throughout the United States, if you have an opposite traffic coming towards you, usually they're about 2,000 feet above you or below you in Class A airspace, okay? So the next airspace they're going to talk about is Class B airspace. So for this one, I'm going to need you guys to go into your Safari or Google Chrome or whatever and type in VFRmap.com, okay? VFRmap.com. All right. So I'm going to just show you what that looks like right now real quick. Hold on.
Well, finally I found this thing. I've been looking for one of these. I'm like, oh, I wish there was a website like this.
Yeah.
For the charts.
For the charts, right? So you should be seeing it right now. If you go www.vfrmap.com. Do you guys see it? Can I get like a thumbs up or something like that?
Yeah, I have it over mine. I'm over Seattle.
Oh, nice. So I'm going to bring you guys all to New York. So why don't you, on the VFR map, on the box, the search box, type in KJFK. Bring you to John F. Kennedy. All right, so then it should show you the JFK Airport right here. Okay. Does everybody have this?
Yeah, I'm on it.
Okay, cool. So the next airspace we're going to talk about today is going to be this blue, everything inside this blue line. I know it looks kind of complicated right now, but once you go throughout the lesson, you should be able to understand what's going on. But usually a Class Bravo airspace, you can correlate it to being a busy airport. So if you zoom out of the zoom out on the map, you have JFK, which is a Class Bravo airspace, and LaGuardia and New York. You have Philadelphia right here. I don't know if it's going to be lagging when I do this, but you have Philadelphia, which is a Class Bravo airspace, right? You have
Where's that blue, like that blue outline, kind of like that big circle?
yeah,
Okay, and that's
yeah.
Class A, right? Or Class
No,
B?
Class B, right?
That's Class B. Okay.
Yep. So right here we have DC, right? And then if you zoom out, you come down to right here, you have Charlotte, right? So all the big terminal, like main hub airports are usually Class Bravo airspace. Here's ATL, because Delta flies in there, right? So we have ATL is Class Bravo. Let's see. And then down here, you have Miami, and then you got Orlando, and you got Tampa, right? And so forth, like Houston's right here, right? Houston, Dallas, Memphis. So we'll go back to JFK. I'm sorry, you guys might be getting dizzy right now by looking at this. But I'm going to play the video that's going to talk about the Bravo airspace, okay? So while you guys listening to the video, it's good for you to actually know on the sectional chart how it looks like and what that airspace looks like. Okay, so hold on one second.
The nation's busiest and largest airports. To find Class Bravo airspace on a VFR sectional chart, look for the solid blue lines. The lateral distances of the airspace will vary with the local area, but will typically maintain the shape of an upside-down wedding cake with several layers. Vertically, this airspace is generally located between the surface and 10,000 feet MSL, but exceptions do exist. Inside each unique sector of airspace, there are numbers published on sectional charts to indicate the vertical dimensions of Class B airspace in that sector. In this example, at Orlando, Florida, the top of Class B airspace is located at 10,000 feet MSL, and the bottom is located at 6,000 feet MSL.
All right, guys. So you guys might get confused right here a little bit. So real quick, let's take a look at the map again. All right. Here's the map. I'm gonna bring up the map right now.
Should we go to Orlando or JFK?
It doesn't matter. We'll choose whatever airport you guys want. Do you have an airport that you volunteer for? Who's that? Who just talked? Atash? What airport should we go to?
Stick to JFK.
All right, stick to JFK. Okay, cool. So if you see me scrolling inside a little bit. So when you scroll inside, you'll see. Do you guys see my mouse, Taj?
I see that. Yeah, clear as day.
Okay, so where my mouse is, it basically says 7,000 on top divided by plus 500, right? Do you see this airspace right here? So basically what it's saying is Class Bravo airspace is in between up to 7,000 feet and above 500 feet. So the top one says 70, that means 7,000. And then the bottom says plus 500, so above 500 feet. And then if you move right here, this part of Bravo airspace, it says from surface, so that means from the ground all the way up to 7,000 feet, right? If I move right here to on this side of the Bravo airspace, it says from 1,500 feet up to 7,000 feet is Bravo airspace. Okay.
So is that the level, like you can't go above, like if you're flying in a Cessna and you're in the blue here, like you're allowed to be in the blue because you're a VFR pilot, You have to be below 7,000 at all times.
Yeah, so if you're going through Bravo airspace, you have to be, there's going to be some requirements that the video is going to talk about that you must need to be in this airspace. And basically what it's saying is you're going to have to be at least a private pilot or endorsed student pilot. You're going to have to be at least, you have to have clearance to enter into Bravo airspace. And there's also like a certain like airspeed that you have to keep. So for example, like if you see my, this is my home airport, right? I live in Long Island. So if you see where my mouse is, that's Long Island MacArthur Airport. So in order for me to go from Long Island to let's say Trenton, New Jersey, where my mouse is right here. Do you guys see my mouse? Right? The only way I can get from Long Island to Trenton, New Jersey is by going through this airspace or go above it, right? So I could actually, you know, leaving Long Island Airport right here, I could climb up to like 70,500 feet or 8,500 feet and fly right over the Bravo airspace. Or I could go under by going, you know, 400 feet on the coastline, going under the Bravo airspace. But in order for me to just go normally, just go straight through at like a normal altitude at like 4,500 feet, I would have to get clearance to go through the Bravo airspace, okay? So I'm gonna play the video and it's gonna explain a little bit more about this Bravo airspace, okay?
So it says 7,000 over 1,500. So if you're at 1,000 feet, you don't have to ask for permission to enter?
No, you don't have to do anything. But in Bravo airspace, you're gonna have to have a transponder so they know that somebody's going under them, okay?
So you just ask for it, or is it on there?
No, you don't even have to talk to them.
Oh,
If you're
okay.
going under, yeah. All right. So
In order to operate in Class B airspace, there are several requirements that must be met. The pilot must be at least a private pilot or a student pilot with the necessary endorsements. Two-way communication with ATC must be maintained. And in addition, a clearance to enter the airspace must be given to the pilot.
Skyhawk 454 Echo Romeo, cleared to enter Orlando Bravo airspace.
And the aircraft must possess a Mode C transponder. There are 12 airports around the country that student pilots are never authorized to enter, even with an endorsement. These are the busiest of the busy airports, and therefore cannot handle student pilots. A listing of these airports can be found in the Aeronautical Information Manual, or AIM, in Section 3-2-3. A 30-mile ring, known as a Mode C veil, surrounds the primary airport of Class B airspace. An aircraft must operate with a Mode C transponder within this ring, even if they are not necessarily inside of Class B airspace. This is shown on a sectional chart with a solid magenta line and the label 30 nautical mile Mode C. The minimum weather requirements for Class B are as follows. The visibility must not be any less than 3 statute miles, and the pilot must remain clear of any clouds. Speed limitations in Class B airspace are twofold. When operating below 10,000 feet MSL, the speed limit is 250 knots. Whenever operating below Class B airspace, the speed limit is 200 knots. Class C, or Charlie airspace.
So basically, I hope you guys kind of understand what that video is saying. I know it's a little bit complicated, but when you start flying around these airspaces, it's very important to know that if you're going through a Bravo airspace with your instructor or whatever, you can't just enter into that airspace just like, you know, because you want to. The only way you can enter into this airspace is by getting clearance. So the most important and key point about that airspace is that you need to be cleared into that airspace. And what that means is, for example, like, let's say you're Cessna 12345, right? So you'll probably fly and you'll say, hey, Cessna 123, like Kennedy Airspace or, you know, New York Approach, Cessna 12345, are we cleared into the Bravo? So you always want to get verification, and then they say, hey, Cessna 12345, stand by. that means you're not cleared. Or if they say, hey, Cessna 12345, you know, go heading 270 or whatever. Whatever they say, if they don't say you are the words verbatim, you're cleared into the Bravo airspace, then you have to go around it or you cannot enter it. So I know a lot of people who get violations for this. So just remember, when you go through like in your student training, when you're going through a Bravo airspace, make sure 100% that you got the clearance where the ATC traffic controller tells you, hey, specifically your airplane or whatever, or your call sign that you're cleared into. So this is the only airspace that is going to be technically like that. When we move on to Class Charlie and Delta, you don't need clearance, you just need a two-way communication. And two-way communication, the difference between a clearance and a two-way communication is if you say, hey, Cessna 12345, would like to go into Long Island Charlie airspace to land or whatever, and they say, okay, Cessna 12345, stand by. Even though they say that, they made two-way communication with you. So if they mention your tail number or your call sign, and whatever they say, that means they made two-way communication so you can enter that airspace, whether being cleared or not cleared. The only way you're not going to be cleared into them a Charlie airspace is when they say, hey, remain clear of the Long Island Charlie airspace, when they say that, when they say remain clear. Okay? So I hope that made sense.
I have a quick
Yeah,
question.
go ahead, Tosh.
Okay, like you said, so your home airport is the Long Island one.
Yep.
Let's say, okay, this is like the only thing I'm kind of confused about right now. Is
Okay.
this one has like red around it? It's like a
Yeah.
red. And I'm
Yeah.
sitting here, I have no choice. So like if I take off, where do I go to get, like, is there like a thing I have to follow? Because that doesn't look like I'm in a Class Bravo.
Yeah. You're talking about
How do I
the Long Island airport, right?
Yeah, like how do I get from Long Island Airport and I'm taking a VFR to JFK or something like that?
So
Or New York.
basically, when you're in a Charlie airspace on the ground, you have to receive clearance to leave that airport on the ground, if that makes sense. So you'll contact the clearance delivery frequency and for that airport, and you'll say, hey, Long Island clearance, Cessna 12345 would like to depart to the southeast or something. And so then they'll say, okay, squawk this number. They'll give you a transponder code, right? So then you put in your squawk box the four number code inside there. And so when you leave the tower, and everybody already knows your intentions when you leave that airport, if that makes sense.
So how would I know that, like,
No,
is the red
the
one,
red one is
still
going to be Class Charlie airspace. So
B
that's the next
airspace?
one
Like,
we're going to
how do
talk
I
about, okay? All right, here we go.
Space
Okay,
is designated
that's
for
good. Sorry,
airports
okay.
like Daytona Beach International Airport that are not as busy as Class B, but are still busy enough to require radar approach assistance to organize and separate aircraft traveling into and out of the local area. This airspace is labeled on a VFR sectional chart using solid magenta lines. The typical shape of Class C airspace contains two cylinders, the inner core and the outer shelf, but can be tailored to meet the needs of certain airports. The core consists of a 5 nautical mile area extending from the surface up to 4,000 feet AGL. The shelf consists of a 10 nautical mile area that extends from 1,200 feet AGL to 4,000 feet AGL. These altitudes are labeled in reference to MSL on aeronautical charts. Radar coverage is available up to 20 nautical miles from the airport. Some Class C airports, like Orlando Sanford, lie underneath Class Bravo. Airspace like this may have custom dimensions that extend up to the floor of the Class Bravo. The requirements to operate in Class C are as follows. Pilots must be rated at least a student pilot. Aircraft must possess a Mode C transponder. No clearance is necessary to enter, but two-way radio communication with ATC must be established and maintained. If the controller responds to your initial call with your call sign, you are cleared to enter the airspace. The one exception would be if they replied to your call with the phrase, remain clear of Class Charlie.
Sky 454 Echo Romeo, remain clear of Class Charlie.
To operate inside Class C VFR, the visibility must not be less than 3 statute miles and the pilot cannot be any closer to the clouds than 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontal.
Just real quick right here. This is the Class C weather minimums. So obviously, when you're a private pilot, you're doing VFR flying, right? So this is what the weathers at least have to be in order for you to conduct a VFR flight. So the weather needs to be more than 3 statute miles, or at least 3 statute miles. And then the clouds, you got to steer away from the clouds. You have to be at least be able to be at least 500 feet under the clouds, 2,000 feet the lateral distance, and 1,000 feet above. So this is stuff that you have to memorize. And usually the way I do it for Class Charlie airspace, I always go Cessna 152. Like I just use that as an acronym, Cessna 152. So basically 1,000 above, 500 below, and 2,000 lateral distance. Okay, so we'll continue.
Horizontally. As previously stated in Class Bravo, anytime the aircraft is operating below 10,000 feet, the speed limit is 250 knots. That limit is reduced down to 200 knots when operating below 2,500 feet AGL and within 4 nautical miles of the primary Class C airport. Class D, or Delta airspace, is controlled airspace surrounding smaller local airports that are quiet enough to not require any radar separation.
So now we're moving into Class D airspace. So a Class D airspace that you can see on the map real quick would be if you zoom up right next to, in between JFK and Long Island MacArthur Airport, you know, in between the big blue line airport and then in between the magenta line airport, you'll see like a dotted dash line airport called Republic. It says Republic and it's in a dash line. Taj, do you see that by any chance? Here you go. I'll just show you with my screen. So right here. So we have JFK right here, and then we have Long Island MacArthur Airport right here. If you just zoom up real quick, this dashed line right here around this airport,
Yeah,
it's called
I
Republic
see
Airport.
it, but it's still in the blue.
Yeah, well, it's going to be under, so this airport is under the Bravo airspace. So if you look right here, the Bravo airspace here is actually 4,000 feet to 7,000 feet, right? From 4,000 to 7,000. So this airspace is going from the surface up to 2,600 feet.
Okay.
You got it? So it's under the, you remember the Bravo airspace is like an upside down wedding cake, right? So
Yeah.
underneath that, it's this airport. So this airport is underneath the Bravo airspace. All right?
So if I'm flying from New York, so if I'm flying from the Long Island to
Yeah.
Republic, I'm flying under 4,000, and then I can maintain 4,000 in that because it's the minimum of 4,000. So I can fly 4,000 or below that whole time.
Yeah, 4,000 or below. So I would stay at like 3,500 or 2,500 or whatever.
Okay, and you can fly anywhere in this airspace, like a Bravo. Like if you're VFR, can you go anywhere in this? Like as long as you're in the airspace, can you just fly anywhere?
Yeah, as long as you're in the airspace.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool.
Okay, so just real quick, for the VFR altitudes too, like anytime you're going westbound, it's gonna be the evens plus 500. So it will be like 2,500 feet, 4,500 feet, 6,500 feet, 8,500 feet. Anytime you're going eastbound, right, it's going to be the odd plus or 500 feet altitude that you have to keep. So it'll be like 3,500 feet, 5,500 feet, or 7,500 feet. Just real quick, just so you guys understand the VFR altitudes, okay? So hold on one second. There we go. I know this is a dry lesson, but it's just something that we have to go through.
Oh yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, I feel like this is the best way to do it too.
I think this is my favorite one. I don't know why I like airspace so much.
All right, sounds good. Here we go.
But still busy enough to require a control tower. This airspace is labeled on a VFR sectional chart using dashed blue lines. The dimensions of Class D airspace are relatively simple, consisting of a single cylindrical area, generally extending from the surface up to 2,500 feet AGL. Just as stated for Class C, the altitudes shown on VFR sectionals are labeled in MSL. Similar to Class C, occasionally a Class D airport may be located underneath either Class B or C airspace. In these cases, Class D will extend up to the floor of the underlying airspace. Ormond Beach and New Smyrna Beach airports are located underneath Daytona Beach's outer shelf. Since the Daytona shelf begins at 1,200 feet MSL, Ormond and New Smyrna extend up to, but not including, 1,200 feet MSL. The typical radius of the airspace is about 5 nautical miles, but can vary between 3 and 7 nautical miles. To operate in Class D, the pilot must be at least a student pilot, and two-way radio communications must be established with the tower. Flying VFR in Class D requires the visibility to be at least 3 statute miles, and to get no closer to the clouds than 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontally. As previously stated, the maximum speed one can operate below 10,000 feet MSL is 250 knots. However, when at or below 2,500 feet AGL and within 4 nautical miles of the Class D airport, the maximum allowable speed is only 200 knots. Class E, or Echo airspace, is defined as controlled airspace that is not Class A, B, C, or D, and is one of the largest parts of the National Airspace System. Since this may seem like a vague definition, we can split the airspace up into 7 unique types or locations. To remember them all, we'll use the acronym SETFOOD. Surface area designated for an airport. This area is depicted surrounding an airport, starting at the surface, much like a Class D airport, and is designated to be configured to contain any instrument procedures for that particular airport. It is depicted on a VFR sectional chart with a dashed magenta line. Extension to a surface area. These areas serve as extensions to Class B, C, or D to allow for instrument approach procedures into that airport. This area is also depicted with a dashed magenta line, but does not surround an airport. Airspace used for transition. These areas are used to transition aircraft to or from the terminal area and en route environments. A vignette is used to depict these on sectional charts. A magenta vignette indicates the floor of the Class E at 700 feet AGL, and a blue vignette indicates the floor at 1,200 feet AGL. Federal Airways. These airways can be thought of as the highways in the sky and serve as a popular method to get aircraft to their destination. Each airway is 8 nautical miles wide and starts at 1,200 feet AGL, extending up to but not including 18,000 feet MSL. Offshore airspace areas. This airspace is used to allow ATC to provide services to IFR traffic that operate beyond 12 nautical miles from the coast. The borders of these areas depicted on a sectional chart resemble that of a zipper. The floor of each sector is indicated inside each respective area. Other. In certain parts of the country, Class Echo does not start until 14,500 feet MSL, excluding any areas that are within 1,500 feet of the ground. This airspace continues upward until reaching 18,000 feet, which is where the Class Alpha starts. At flight level 600, where Class Alpha ends, Class Echo continues upward to an indefinite altitude. En route domestic areas. These areas are located outside of any federal airway to allow for ATC to separate traffic. This example shows an area of Echo airspace between two airways beginning at 12,000 feet MSL. There are no defined vertical limits to Class Echo. This airspace will either start at the surface or a defined altitude and continue upward until coming in contact with a different class of controlled airspace. There are no specific pilot qualifications, equipment requirements, or operational procedures necessary in order to fly within this airspace. Because Class Echo can be located in many different areas, the weather minimums to operate VFR within Class Echo depend on your altitude. When below 10,000 feet MSL, the visibility must be at least 3 statute miles, and pilots cannot be any closer to clouds than 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontally. However, when operating at or above 10,000 feet MSL, the requirements increase. There, the visibility must be at least 5 statute miles, and aircraft must remain at least 1,000 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 1 statute mile horizontally from any clouds. Similar to other airspace, the maximum airspeed an aircraft can fly is 250 knots when below 10,000 feet MSL. There is no speed limit when at or above 10,000 feet, except to remain slower than the speed of sound. Class G or Gulf airspace is uncontrolled and makes up the rest of the area that has not been designated already as Class A, B, C, D, or E. This airspace starts on the ground and continues upward until coming in contact with another class of airspace, usually Echo. In the majority of the country, this would mean that Class Gulf would extend up to, but not including, 1,200 feet AGL. The highest altitude Gulf will ever go up to is 14,500 feet MSL, unless within 1,500 feet of a really tall mountain. Just like Class Echo, there are no specific pilot qualifications, equipment requirements, or operational procedures necessary in order to fly within this airspace. The weather minimums to operate VFR in Class Gulf are relatively complicated and depend on both the aircraft's altitude and time of day. To organize all the various possibilities, let's create a chart. Anytime the aircraft is within 1,200 feet of the surface, regardless of the MSL altitude during the day, the aircraft is required to remain clear of clouds, and the visibility must be at least 1 statute mile. At night, the visibility must be at least 3 statute miles, and cloud clearances are 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontally. When flying above 1,200 feet AGL, but less than 10,000 feet MSL during the day, the minimum visibility is 1 statute mile, and again, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontally from clouds. At night, the visibility is once again 3 statute miles, and the same 5, 1, and 2 for cloud clearances. When flying both above 1,200 feet AGL and 10,000 feet MSL, regardless of the time of day, the visibility must be at least 5 statute miles, and the cloud clearances are at least 1,000 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 1 statute mile horizontally. This is the same requirement for Class Echo above 10,000 feet MSL. As previously stated, the maximum speed an aircraft can fly is 250 knots when below 10,000 feet MSL. There is no speed limit when at or above 10,000 feet, except to remain slower than the speed of sound. Now, you might have noticed there was no listing for Class F or Foxtrot airspace. This is because in the United States, the FAA National Airspace System has not declared any airspace that falls under this classification. However, in other countries around the world, Class F airspace does exist.
Can't hear you.
Hello. Hey.
There we go.
Yeah. So basically, that's all the class. That's all the airspace information that there is for Class A, B, C, D, and E. And if you look into your sectional chart, you're going to be able to notice what is a class. Well, you won't see Class A airspace, right? Because Class A airspace is going to be above 18,000 feet, right? But you'll be able to now kind of depict what is Class Bravo airspace, right? What is Class Charlie airspace right here, right? What is Class Delta airspace? This dashed circle, right? Let's see over here. There's a lot of Delta airports, right? We have Bridgeport Airport right here. It goes from 2,000 surface AGL to 2,500 feet, right? And you have right here New Haven, which is 2,500 feet. That's Class Delta. And then you have your Class Echo airspaces, right? It's inside this magenta line, right? And it's all these uncontrolled airports you see, right? An uncontrolled airport means that there's no tower. Okay, then you have Groton Airport right here. That's a Class Delta airport. So, like, when you guys have time today, please, or, throughout the week, start getting familiar with looking at a sectional chart, right? Because basically, after you can read a sectional chart, the next part that you need to learn how to do is how to flight plan across using the sectional chart, using it as a map, right? So the way you can see or identify each part of a sectional chart is if you go to google.com or whatever, and you type and you search sectional chart key or sectional chart legend. The FAA has a aeronautical chart user guide that you can download for free. So while you look, so basically, let me see if I can show you my screen. Hold on 1 second. Here you go. So if you see here, all I typed was sectional chart key, right? Once you type in sectional chart key, you have this website right here that says, that's from the FAA, the Aeronautical Chart User Guide. It's a PDF file. And if you click that, you'll see it's 131 pages, but you don't have to read everything, and you don't have to read each page. All you have to do is whatever question you have, you can look it up on the key. And in the key, it will show you every part of the map. Like, it'll show you, like, okay, right here where my mouse is, oh, that picture means it's an aerobatic practice area. Okay, this picture right here, it looks like a high energy radiation area. Like, this stuff, you don't have to memorize 100%. You just have to know where you can find it, right? But the stuff that you're going to have to memorize is definitely the requirements, the VFR requirements for those airspaces. Like, what is the VFR requirement for Bravo airspace? You need at least 3 statute miles, and you need to be just clear of clouds. But what's the VFR requirements for Class Charlie airspace? You need to have 3 statute miles, and you have to be, the cloud requirements are, Cessna 152, right? You need to be 500 below, 2,000 feet the lateral distance, and then 1,000 feet above. So this is all the stuff that you need to have memorized. And once you start understanding this, like, you're good to go. And a lot of this stuff is going to be on your private pilot written test, okay? So I'm going to conclude the lesson for today here, and then I'm going to put up the 2 links for this airspace lesson, and then there's another airspace lesson, which is not that long. It's like 10 minutes long, but it's about the like MOA, the military airspaces, and all the other like control filing area airspaces on all the. So it'll be another video I'm going to put up. But anybody here have any questions? And also, anybody here about to take the written test for their private pilot license? Anybody getting ready for it?
Not yet. I have a question though.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see if I can flip my camera. Hold on. Okay, cool. So this is my hometown. This is my home airport.
Where is that?
It's called Moncton. It's CYQM. Moncton International.
CYQM?
Yeah, you'll see it. It's on the edge of Canada. Yeah, you'll see Greater Moncton International.
I can't pull it up. Can you say that one more time? Is it just YQM?
CYQM.
So you said Yankee, what is it? Q.
Charlie.
Oh.
M.
So Charlie, Yankee, and then what?
Q.
Uh-huh.
Whatever Q is. And M.
Yeah. M. Q is Quebec, and the M is Mike. Oh, I guess I can't pull up Canada on this.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, this was, I just kind of dragged it over, but this was,
yeah.
So this, like, right here, this section right here has nothing. Does that mean it's a Class D?
Yeah, if it doesn't have any, like, magenta line around it, it's a uncontrolled. Yeah.
But these things right here, that's a Class B.
Yeah. No, that's not a Class B. I wish I can see what. That's a mode C Vail, right?
Okay.
Or no, that says something that says 3,000 feet MSL. Okay.
Yeah, like this is the home airport I
Yeah.
have. Like that's where
Yeah.
I'm taking my flight school.
Yeah, so your flight school is in a Class Delta airport, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it says it right there. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't
Up to
notice
3,500 feet. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right.
That's all.
I also have a question.
Hey, what's up?
My airport's KMSP.
Okay. Hey.
Minneapolis.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, on the right side near St. Paul, it says 17. What does that mean?
17.
Mm-hmm.
That means it's in that quadrant. The highest obstacle is at 1,700 feet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
the
then,
highest obstacle. Yeah,
and then South St. Paul, that's where I take my classes.
yeah.
What class would that be?
Which airport is that?
South St. Paul, Fleming Field.
Okay, what's the identifier?
Oh,
Is it
SGS.
KS
GS.
KSGS? Hold on.
Yeah.
SGS. Where is that at? Oh,
It's
St.
just-
Paul downtown. Wait, is that it?
Yeah, but it's magenta.
I don't see the airport. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
Joe.
Yeah, I see it. South St. Paul. Okay, SGS Fleming Airport. So it's an uncontrolled airport, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because it's under the Bravo airspace.
Yeah.
Okay, because at that place up to 2,300 feet, it's uncontrolled,
Okay.
right? From 2,300 feet to 10,000 feet, it's the Bravo airspace.
So you have to have permission to say, "Hey, I'm going into your airspace."
Yeah, so basically, you'll probably, what you guys do when you're flying out of there, you'll probably stay at 2,000 feet or below and go exit the Bravo airspace to train somewhere else.
Oh,
You know what I'm
okay.
You probably won't
Yeah.
go into the Bravo airspace to do your training,
Yeah.
okay? Right?
Yeah. Okay. And then, oh, I understand it now. Okay. Now I
Yeah, so
understand.
you'll probably fly out east, and when you fly out east, the outside veil of the Bravo airspace is up to 4,000 feet, right? And then if you
Mhm.
keep on going near Rush River or whatever, it's up to 6,000 feet, right? So that's all. It's not the Bravo airspace. So it's
Mhm.
basically you gotta picture it as like an upside down wedding cake.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you have questions about what like those little things are, like I don't memorize everything. I just use the key. And especially if you have a sectional chart, like it's good to buy at least one sectional chart, and they're like $5 or whatever. And on the back of that sectional chart, it has all the legends. Okay.
Oh, it's so useful.
Yeah, yeah. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's lesson. We're gonna close it right here. If you have any questions, please type it up on the Facebook or whatever. And yeah, that's it. And if you guys want to show kindness, you guys know my Venmo tag, and you can just send appreciation there. All right.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.